When people turn 70, they often realize that life is not just about busy days, worries, and endless meetings. After many years of living up to the expectations of society, family, and friends, many people begin to choose a different path. Away from the crowd, seeking silence and focusing on themselves. This decision may surprise many people, even make them skeptical, but it is a meaningful and profound choice. It is not because they no longer want to communicate or connect with others, but simply because they need space to listen to themselves, to cherish every moment of life that was previously overlooked in the hustle and bustle. Life after 70 is a great time to look back on what has passed, and sometimes silence is the place to find profound answers that have never been thought of before. This is the story of why they decided to live a quiet life, rediscovering the values that had been forgotten in the rush of years. One quiet life, a space for reflection. Life after 70 opens up an ideal space to reflect on the values that one has experienced throughout one's journey. In a world full of noise and hustle, choosing peace is a way to learn to appreciate the small but meaningful moments. A peaceful morning sipping a cup of tea, listening to the birds chirping outside, or simply watching the morning sunlight filtering through the leaves. These simple things bring us deep joy. Mrs. Smith, 75, after many years of ups and downs in life, has learned to enjoy these quiet moments every day. After the passing of her beloved husband, she found solace in the quiet mornings when she could enjoy a cup of hot tea and listen to the birds chirping outside. The rustling of leaves in the wind, the sunlight streaming through the window, all these became precious moments that she had never noticed in her busy years. One morning, sitting by the window, she noticed the dewdrops still on the leaves and suddenly reflected on the years gone by. She realized that only in stillness could she truly feel the fullness of life and notice the little things that she had missed before. Serenity is not a lack of activity, but an opportunity to reflect, to listen to what life has given us. Mrs. Smith's mornings were not lonely, but a precious time for her to reconnect with herself. She discovered that happiness does not always come from big things. Sometimes just a cup of tea and feeling the gentle breeze blowing through the garden is enough to feel inner peace. The quiet moments are also a time to look back on past relationships, good memories, and valuable lessons learned from pain. It is a time to forgive, let go, and heal old wounds. Similar to Ms. Smith, Mr. Johnson, 72, also finds comfort in reflecting on the past. He has lived a life full of memories, from the difficult years of raising children to the warm moments with his family. After retirement, he began to reflect on the past. One autumn afternoon, sitting with his family photo album, he quietly looked at the pictures of his children and his late wife. Suddenly something occurred to him, something he had never thought about before. Every relationship, whether short or long, brings valuable lessons. The pain of life has helped him mature and allowed him to see life more deeply. As time went on, Johnson realized that to find peace within ourselves, we sometimes need to let go. Let go of grudges, regrets about the past, and even people who are no longer in our lives. He forgave himself and others, making his heart lighter and more peaceful. The stillness was not only an opportunity to reflect, but also a reminder that there is nothing more precious than peace of mind. 2. Solitude. Not the same as loneliness. Many people confuse solitude with loneliness and sadness. In fact, solitude is a choice, an opportunity to connect more deeply with ourselves. We don't always need outside conversations to feel whole. Instead, solitude is a space where we listen to our inner voice, ask questions, and find answers from within. People who choose solitude often develop special relationships with nature, art, or faith. They find joy in simple things like tending plants, writing in a journal, painting, or even just quietly gazing at the stars. Many others also find joy in silence, like Ms. Lee, a 68-year-old artist. She always finds peace and joy in solitude. After her children grew up and started their own lives, she decided to spend more time alone. In this quiet space, she did not feel lonely at all. In fact, her solitude became an indispensable part of her life, an opportunity to connect more deeply with herself. She began to paint the paintings she had always dreamed of, no longer bound by the expectations of society or family. Every afternoon she sat alone at her easel, letting her brushstrokes carry her emotions, thoughts, and life experiences. For Ms. Lee, solitude is not a lack or absence. It is a choice to live fully as herself. Far from feeling sad, solitude brought her joy in the simplest things: a good book, a peaceful afternoon, or the paintings she created. Through solitude, she reconnected with art and with herself, and it became an endless source of energy, allowing her to live happily and peacefully every day. 3. Choosing a quiet life, the freedom of old age. Choosing a quiet life is not negative or lacking. On the contrary, it is the freedom to escape from unnecessary pressures and relationships. After the age of 70, we often start to ask ourselves, what is really important in life? Sometimes the answer is simply within ourselves, instead of looking for it from others. However, balance is always necessary. Living a quiet life does not mean completely cutting off from the world. It is about learning to choose relationships that truly bring positive value. A few close friends, meaningful conversations instead of countless others, or even just a warm hug from family. These are precious spiritual gifts that make our lives stronger. Mrs. Taylor, 76, after her husband passed away and her children had their own lives, decided to embrace a quiet, peaceful life. No longer concerned with social gatherings or unnecessary relationships, she spent every morning in her garden, tending to her favorite flowers, then sitting quietly in a chair, reading or writing in her diary. She realized that living quietly was not a renunciation, but the ultimate freedom in life to live authentically, true to her true self. No longer caught up in social worries, she was now free to find joy in the simple things that she had never had time to enjoy before. In those quiet moments, Mrs. Taylor found freedom and peace. She no longer had to chase after things that were out of reach, other than what was truly important to her. It's a freedom that only time can give. Freedom from expectations, freedom from the pressures of relationships that no longer serve you, and freedom to live fully in each passing moment. 4. Mental health and quiet living. Silent living is a wonderful way to improve mental health after 70. Without the distractions of conflict or social pressure, older adults can reduce stress, anxiety, and even improve the quality of their sleep. Peace of mind creates space for positive emotions such as gratitude, simple joy, and a deep sense of peace. In addition, activities such as meditation, gentle yoga, or simply relaxing in a peaceful setting can improve concentration, enhance memory, and slow down the aging process of the brain. Mr. Williams, 70, after retiring and going through a few health crises, turned to meditation and yoga as a way to take care of his mental health. Initially, he saw them as simple exercises, but gradually he realized that meditation brought not only physical improvements, but also a profound change in the spirit. Every morning he spent 20 minutes meditating, allowing the stillness to permeate his body and mind. In those moments, he no longer felt anxious or stressed about the little things in life. Instead, he began to experience a sense of peace, a harmony he had never known before. The stillness that Mr. Williams found in meditation not only reduced his stress, but also kept his memory and concentration sharp. Each day felt like an opportunity. to slow down, enjoy the moment, and find joy in the stillness. A simple yet fulfilling joy. 5. Reconnecting with nature. After a busy life, a quiet life offers a wonderful opportunity to reconnect with nature. A walk in the park, tending a small garden, or simply sitting and watching the rain can bring a simple joy and endless relaxation. Nature is not only a loyal companion but also a powerful inspiration, helping older people feel life and death gently and without fear. Nature teaches us that life is an endless cycle of birth and death, and through this, it helps reduce anxiety and cultivate acceptance. Mrs. Green, 71 after retiring, spent most of her time tending to the family garden. Every morning, she would go out to water the flowers and watch the magical changes of nature. One day, while looking at the blooming flowers, she shared with a friend, "Every flower has its time to bloom and fade, just like our lives. When I take care of the plants, I feel like I am a part of nature, experiencing birth and death gently." This connection helped her stop worrying about aging and instead find a deep sense of peace and acceptance of change, like the natural flow of life. Green realized that nature is not only an endless source of inspiration, but also a faithful companion in her old age. The quiet moments spent in the garden are where she finds greater peace and acceptance of herself, life, and all that is to come. 6. Time for creativity and self-discovery. Solitude and quiet living provide an ideal space for older adults to explore passions they may not have had time to pursue before. Writing, painting, playing a musical instrument, or even learning a new skill, all are great ways to enrich the soul. Sin is not the limit for creativity. On the contrary, it can be the time when we are most free, no longer bound by societal expectations or responsibilities. Mrs. Parker, 73, has always loved writing, but she never had the time to pursue it before. When her children became independent, she decided to devote all her time to writing. Every morning she sits at her desk, jotting down stories, memories, and emotions from her life. Her diaries gradually turned into short stories, sometimes reflecting on her childhood, sometimes pondering her life. Writing became a way for Ms. Parker to rediscover herself. She felt like she was being born again, no longer a mother or a wife, but herself. Simply herself. Each sentence she wrote helped her reflect on her life and find freedom in expressing her emotions. This creative process not only brought her joy, but also helped her reconnect with forgotten memories and dreams. 7. Listening to the inner voice. Throughout our lives, we often get caught up in the opinions of others and social norms, sometimes forgetting to listen to our inner voice. After the age of 70, a quiet life becomes a precious opportunity to hear the calling from within and realize the true value of life that may have been overlooked. This is not just a change, but a spiritual journey where people begin to seek a connection with something greater than themselves. It could be religious faith, harmony with the universe, or simply a clear sense of the meaning of each passing day. Mrs. Green, throughout her life, has been a caregiver devoted to raising her children and maintaining a stable life. But when she turned 70 with her children grown and independent, she realized that she had never taken the time to listen to herself. All her worries made her forget one important thing: her own inner voice. One spring morning, after waking up and enjoying a cup of warm tea, Mrs. Green sat by the window, watching the dew drops on the leaves. A sense of peace she had never felt before arose in her heart. It was a moment of stillness when she realized she needed to find the answer from within. She began to spend time reading spiritual books, listening to lectures on cosmic harmony, and practicing meditation every morning. One day, while meditating in her lush garden, she felt a deep connection with the surrounding scenery. Everything seemed to become closer, from the trees, the sky, to herself. A strange peace enveloped her, as if all the worries and troubles in her life suddenly became insignificant. She realized that for many years she had been looking for peace from the outside, but had forgotten that true peace comes from within. This inner voice is not a clear voice, but a gentle feeling, an understanding of oneself, a deep sense of the meaning of each moment in life. Green understood that living in silence is not about living alone. It is a spiritual journey, a journey of connecting with values greater than oneself. It is a belief in the invisible, the harmony between people and nature, and above all, self-acceptance and love. For Green, each day is no longer a series of worries, but precious moments to listen, to reconnect with oneself and with the wider world around. However, finding silence also requires patience and practice, avoiding unwanted isolation. Although solitude is not loneliness, it is still important to maintain meaningful relationships. Life is not always busy with meetings, promises, or unfinished projects. Sometimes it is in those quiet moments that we can realize that true happiness does not come from busyness or material achievements, but from the simplest things. It could be a morning when the sun has not yet risen, only the sound of birds chirping and fresh air, or a peaceful afternoon when the sunset covers the window, creating a quiet and relaxing space. So many years have passed with worries, but it is at this time, when we have passed the age of 70, that we can really stop, listen to our hearts, and look back at the moments we have missed. It is the time to ask ourselves about the core values in life, about what is really important and meaningful. Slowing down and finding silence is not easy, but in the process, people will find a deep connection with themselves, feeling the small joys that they may have overlooked before. So, although there may not be much to look forward to from life, outside each day spent in that silence is a new discovery, a priceless gift that can only be fully appreciated when there is peace in our souls. Those moments will become a solid foundation to help people continue to live happily and fully, no matter what age